I just believe in the process, and we're going to win going through the process.
Now, Bills Mafia, it's time for the main event. So sit back and enjoy the show.
And now I'd like to bring you the interview we did. She is the host of the NFL UK podcast, Her Huddle. She is the co-host of NFL Overtime. You may have seen it Thursdays on Sky Sports. I welcome to the show, Hannah Wilkes. So enjoy. And I'm joined on the Red, White and Buffalo Blues by Hannah Wilkes. She is one of the hosts of the Her Huddle podcast, an NFL UK podcast, and also co-host of NFL Overtime on Sky Sports. Hannah, thank you for coming on the Red, White and Buffalo Blues and joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and talk Bills Mafia.
Yes, love it. First of all, I just want to get into your background. I mean, how long have you been into the NFL? And obviously, big question is, do you support a team, and if so, who?
Well, I support the Rams, getting that in there straight away. I do like the Bills, though. Especially the last couple of years, and particularly last year, I think everyone fell a little bit in love with the Bills and Josh Allen. So, yeah, if I have to pick an AFC team, the Bills are very much my team. But no, I'm a Rams fan. So, I mean, my journey into the NFL is quite like anyone in this country, very few people grow up watching the sport because of the time of day it's on, unless you've got very chilled out parents. So actually it's coming up to about 10 years next month that I actually first fully understood and fell in love with the game. And it was a Wembley game. I was working as a runner for Sky. And they actually loaned me to Fox for the day. You were the host broadcaster, and it was the Bucks against the Bears at Wembley. And I was watching it on the gantry, and I'd worked on studio coverage of the NFL before back at Sky, and I'm not gonna lie, it was always a bit of a struggle because the hours were through the night and I didn't really know what was going on, and you're just trying to look after everyone and stay awake. So kind of washed over me. Anyway, I stood there on the gantry watching this game unfold, and I'm like, there are people hitting each other hard and people running everywhere, and then the ball flies out, and I don't really know what's going on, but I think I like it. Because I grew up watching rugby, so there's that physicality and that competitiveness that and that violence that very few sports have. So I got a bit of an introduction from the guys who worked on Fox. They were really helpful. They're like, what do you know? And I was like, nothing. So they kind of taught me the basics. And it's grown from there. And in the last sort of 5 years, I suppose, really, it's 5-6 years maybe, is when I've got more and more into it and was watching it more regularly. And now my life revolves around it. So it's all gone quite well.
It's been a meteoric rise, I'm assuming then. So from being the runner to hosting your own podcast, and obviously the NFL Overtime show.
Well, it's true what they say. It takes 10 years to become an overnight success. So yeah, I started running at Sky 10 years ago. And when you're a runner, you're at the photocopier, you're making tea, you're walking guests from A to B, you're getting everyone anything they need and everything they need, and doing anything with a smile on your face. So I've had loads of roles behind the camera, really done pretty much all the things you can do in a production team. And then the opportunity sort of started coming on air, and not just in the NFL. I sort of started off with, we had a kids show that I used to work on, some very sort of niche sports I've covered along the way to get that experience really. I mean, it's quite funny when you talk to people and they're like, oh wow, you've just come out of nowhere. I'm like, no, this has been hard work. I've loved every second of it, but I'm very keen to point that out because it's the same for everyone you see doing this stuff on TV. You will never believe what they've done to get there and how hard they've worked.
I mean, it's pioneering stuff. I mean, you obviously, with your Her Huddle, I think your first episode, you had Kay Adams on there. And that, I listened to that episode. I love that episode on there. I think obviously Kay's good herself, and obviously Good Morning Football as well. And it's just I won't say breath of fresh air as such, but it's nice to see that more and more there's more opportunity now for women to actually start getting into it a little bit more. And obviously with your host, the podcast and all that, you're really paving that way for girls to and women to get into the game. It's like for female coaches, like Bill's Phoebe Shetler.
Yeah,
herself.
well, you just name checked two of my favorite women in the NFL, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because there have, in the US in particular, there've been women on the sidelines for a long time, and there've been, women starting to make the moves and now they're commentating on games on ESPN and all the rest of it. It was really interesting talking to Kay, actually, because I've known Kay for about a year now, actually. We spoke to her every week last year on overtime, and we had really good chats before, we went in to record. And I think from a UK perspective, it's interesting because she popped up on our screens on the NFL channel on Sky Sports a year ago. And she's obviously brilliant at what she does, but I had no idea the stuff she'd done to get there. And we were comparing notes, and she was doing 1-minute news bulletins in a cupboard in the middle of the night, and then working at bars and doing this. And it's like, that's what you have to do. That's the nature of this industry. And when people pop up, you think, oh wow, they just click their fingers. But no, everyone's grafted. And it is great seeing, this year there's 12 women in coaching positions in the NFL. And it's not just those coaching positions. So Phoebe, obviously at the Bills, she did amazingly there. She's now coaching in Germany and got her, helped get her team to the semi-finals this year. And she's such an inspiration. But now we're seeing women everywhere in the NFL. They're in coaching rooms, they're in team offices, they're in league offices, they're refereeing games, they're talking about them on TV. And at lower levels, women are even playing the game too, along with the boys. So it's great to see. And I think we're always going to feel a little bit behind where the US are over here, because the game's younger, relatively speaking, over here.
A bit more involvement coming in.
But I mean, with Her Huddle, you look at who I'm doing that with, you've got some brilliant women in the UK who are just passionate NFL fans, and they're just carving out paths for themselves with podcasts like Liz Banderi, NFL with Nia, Ash in the NFL, countless others that are passionate about it. And I think what's really lovely is that there seems to be real support across the board. Like, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. If you like the NFL, you are welcome within the UK community.
No, that's good. I say it's just good to see that. Obviously, especially with lockdown, all that podcasts actually coming on thick and fast, and different ones coming through. And it is, as you say, it is a great platform, not just to get out there and actually give your own views, but obviously the route you've come up, Kay's come up through, and all that. So that is pretty much a very strong and very good message to put out there, that anything can happen. They say 10 years. Takes 10 years, takes 2 years, takes 20 years.
It's exhausting, but it's worth it.
Exactly. So you said last year that obviously last year, 2020, was probably the year that you really started liking the Bills, obviously saying it's your AFC team. How do you feel that season went for them? What did you really like about it? Was there anything, or was it just the way that we actually put up so much on offense and struggled?
Well, I mean, when you get to the conference championship game, it's been a successful season by any franchise's metric. And the Bills are an interesting one, because I think for UK fans and all of us at Sky Sports, we always in our hearts are rooting for the Bills a little bit, because they were Kev Cadle's team. So everyone's just always like, want good things for them, because
even Neil, I know recently he started to favour a bit, but I feel a few years back, he's probably a bit more hatred, a little bit, being a Dolphins fan.
I wouldn't call it hate, but there's definitely, everyone's got that little bit in their soul that's like, we want good things for the Bill because they were important to Kevin. And then last year, I think, we saw whispers of it in 2019, right? We saw Josh Allen, and he was doing okay, but there was a lot missing. And then last year, you bring him in Stephon Diggs, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is what this can happen here. And just the uptick in Josh Allen, I don't need to say it, it's been said and written about Allen Phantom, of just how impressive the uptick in his ability has been since he's been in the league. You look at how he was being assessed coming out of college, and you look at the level he's playing at now, and coming into this season, he's like one of those guys you like put a $5 on him for MVP, might not be wasted money. And I think just last year it was just entertaining. It was entertaining. The defense maybe wasn't as good as it could have been, or was maybe the year before. And I think in 2019, I get years confused because like 2020 didn't happen because of everything. In 2019,
exactly.
the defense was going to keep the Bills in games, and then Josh Allen was going to do some good stuff, but it wouldn't always come off, and he wouldn't always have a receiver open. And then last year, like, oh, Josh Allen's going to keep the Bills in games, and you just wanted the defense just to be that bit better. But hey, got to the conference championship, so it's not a bad season at all. But it was just the entertainment value, and just watching what Josh Allen could do. It's like all these sort of young quarterbacks in the league, like Lamar Jackson. You're like, what's he going to do next? Patrick Mahomes, where's he going to go? And there's new guys coming through now as well. I think you're starting to get that a bit with Justin Herbert after the performances yesterday. It's just entertaining to watch. And seeing the way their defense looks to have improved so far this season through 3 games, although I don't know how much we can really tell about the Bills after the 3 games they've had. I think you have that grind it out loss against the Steelers, which felt kind of like both teams are maybe still stuck in preseason. 35-0 against the Dolphins, which is a great day for the offense and great day for the defense, but was the opponent really there? And then this week against Washington, who last year, if you'd got the score you got against Washington, you're like, that's a good performance, but their defense has dropped significantly from where they were last year. So we get it, and they're without their starting quarterback as well. So I don't feel like we fully know what this team is capable of yet, which is both exciting and not worrying. It's only 3 minutes, but it's exciting, but also you have to just tread like that little bit cautiously. Like as a Rams fan, I was like, nothing matters the first 2 weeks. It's this Bucks game last night, and I'm in a great mood this Monday morning.
Exactly. We're all in a good mood. As long anytime Brady loses and without, Bills fans are happy.
I will say with Brady, and I know Bills fans feel differently, but I will say, and I've talked about this with one of our producers in overtime last week, I was like, do you feel like you like Tom Brady more since he left New England? I was like, because I do. And I think as well, one thing we've all realised is that we're not going to see someone do what he's doing and build a career that he's built and the records he's set and everything else. We're not going to see it again. So I think now that we know what he's 44, he's talking about 50. So now that we know it's into the last 6 years at max of his career, I think we've all got that little bit more appreciation. But I'm not going to lie, I didn't not enjoy seeing him look frustrated at SoFi last night.
Good. I mean, you're right with the first three games. I say Dolphins, pretty much since Sean McDermott and Josh Allen being in the league, we've just pretty much handed themselves to us on a plate. Really, I mean,
you're quite lucky when you look at some of the teams you get to play twice a year.
Yes, exactly. But that's all good. That helps us a lot more. But I'm thinking you're like me. You're thinking the Chiefs, the Bucks, and possibly the Titans will be the games really that really can define this Bills team this year.
Yeah, I think they're the tests for you guys for sure. And I think the Chiefs, now you've got, I can't remember off the top of my head who they play week 4 this week, but you play them Monday nights. That's a big game, week 5. And after their loss to the Chargers, they're going to be hurting. And they've lost 2 in a row for the first time since, I had this written down earlier, hold on, because I was amazed. I can't find it now, but first time in a long time that they've lost 2. They lost 2 in a row maybe last year or 2019, but still it doesn't happen very often. So you're kind of getting them at a slightly more dangerous time, I would say. But yeah, you look at who the Bills get this year. Texans next week, although you can't sleep on them entirely because they've put some good performances together actually through 3 weeks. Colts and Saints later on, both of those teams, I don't think we really know exactly where they are yet. The Saints, I think they might swing one way than the other all season with Winston under center. You've got the Bucks in December. That's big. But, I mean, ultimately, the schedule's quite kind to the Bills overall, I think, this year.
I think it's like one of the third or fourth easiest schedule for the NFL for the Bills. So we'll take it after all the hard ones we've had previously. So, so based on what you saw last season, and obviously what you've seen with this defense, the way that Josh Allen's now come back out in the game against Washington and this offense, how do you see the Bills go this season? Like, if you want to put like a record prediction on there, could you see a Super Bowl? Could you see Josh Allen with his rise actually being a perennial MVP candidate?
Well, oh God, that's a couple of big questions. I'll start with Josh Allen. I think there was always the fear after the big year he had last year that it would probably drop off a little bit, because that's just what things have to happen. So far, that's actually not looking like the case, so that's good. And yeah, I can totally see him being up there if they keep putting a good offense around him, good offensive line around him. You know, he could buy time, but still, you need a good team around you. But can see no reason why he shouldn't be up there. He's definitely sort of, you think of the top quarterbacks in the league, he's definitely one of the first few names that I'll rattle off, if I'm honest. This season for the Bills, I find the AFC as a whole really quite fascinating at the moment, because before a football was thrown, you'd have said the AFC is the more sort of dangerous, exciting, stacked pool, whereas in the NFC, people were like, well, the Bucks definitely will find out about the Rams, Packers will be there, we don't know what's happening with the Saints. You know what I mean? It looked like the AFC was where the battle was really going to be, but actually you think the Chiefs are currently bottom of the AFC West.
Yeah.
The Broncos and the Raiders are the only two teams in the whole conference that are unbeaten. You're like, oh, someone's really flipped the script on this one. I think the Bills are going to be a playoff team for the next few years, barring any major injuries to Josh Allen or Diggs or, you know, key players. Conference championship last year, you've got to go one better, right? You've always got to be looking at that. And I think what we have seen this year, for so long, it's been, and you know, when the Ravens played the Chiefs last week, it was, if the Ravens are a serious team, if you're going to win a Super Bowl, at some point you've got to beat the Chiefs. Well, the Ravens have proved it can be done, and the Chargers proved it can be done. So we know they are fallible now, which they haven't looked much over the last few years. So yeah, I mean, look, all eyes on that Monday night game in a couple of weeks' time, because that will be a real tell of where this Bills team are. But you've got to be in a conference game, and I don't think you can ever really see past that, because once you get to divisional round and conference championship game, literally anything can happen. So predicting Super Bowls is a risky business, but at the moment, and I might be getting way ahead of myself. I am one to overreact. That I'm like, is this the year the Chiefs come undone a little bit? I'm thinking, for me, the Ravens and the Bills are the teams to be there in January from the AFC. I mean, look, like I say, Broncos and Raiders, I am here for them being great football teams. But it's still so early that you think, when might the wheels come off?
Exactly. And you got the Browns as well that are coming up.
The Browns. I didn't even think about the Browns. But still, I am one of those Baker Mayfield naysayers for my sin. I'm just not convinced. I mean, I want to change. I'm always open to have my mind changed. At the moment, I'm just not. There's always so much hype around them. I think it's like a reaction that I'm like, nah. Yeah.
No, I know. I saw the predictions beginning of the season. Neil Reynolds obviously has backed Bills to win the Super Bowl, Josh Allen to be MVP and all that. So I'm just liking all the buzz that's getting on there. I think some of the guests that you've had on previously, or especially on the main shows on Sunday, have got a few nice things to say about the Bills. So
Look, I can't decide if it's my dream or nightmare scenario, actually, is a Bills Rams Super Bowl in February.
I think that'd be kind of a dream. My dream one would be Bills Bucks, and actually us smashing Bucks and actually knocking Brady out the game.
You don't want Tom Brady in a Super Bowl, because once you get Tom Brady in a Super Bowl, everything else goes out the window. There's some special juju. You don't want that.
No, but no, it's good to see that, and I think, as you said, the AFC was obviously determined to be one of the strongest conferences out of both of them on there. But as we've seen this year and this season, anything can happen with results wise.
And that's why we love it. That's
Exactly.
why we love this sport. It's like, I think we've had, was one game left to play? I think 12 of the 14, 15 games. About 12 games this week alone have been one-score games in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And I mean, where else you get that? Aaron Rodgers posted on Instagram last night, this morning, depending on where in the world you are, like, how can you not be romantic about this game when they win against the 49ers with a field goal, like, as time finishes? Like, how can you not love this game? There's so much drama.
No, exactly. And I think just all the plays, and not just the Bills make, but obviously you've got Mahomes and what he can do. You never rule out guys like him or anything like that to actually pull off the game, which will make, probably in my opinion, this season probably one of the most exciting ones that we will actually see in quite some time. Because obviously
I think the thing to remember is last year was such an anomaly of a season because there were no fans. There was none of the normal stuff around football. And I think because, we still saw every game that was scheduled, not necessarily in its right slot and not necessarily well planned.
Yeah.
We almost forget how weird it was and how strange these teams were having to operate to make it happen. Whereas this year, you've had a proper training camp. Guys can hang out with each other away from football. Like I was talking to some players pre-season, and quite a few guys kind of said that's the real, that they can actually hang out with each other away from football now, and they couldn't last year. So they can watch a movie, they can watch a fight, they can do whatever, and it's that time that really bonds a team together, especially if you're up in Green Bay, for example. Adrian Amos was like, there's nothing to do in Green Bay apart from football. So last year was really hard because you couldn't have no one knows anyone, they haven't got family there, it's not where these guys are from. So being able to actually hang out together and have that, it does pay off on the field as well, and having fans back as well. So I think this season is definitely more exciting in a lot of ways, although last season was thrilling and every week we're like, what just happened? But I think it's going to be a vintage year, and we've got some great rookie players from last year who are really finding their feet in 2021. That's for sure.
No, that's good. I mean, Hannah, thank you very, very much for coming on the show, spend some time out to actually come chat. Your rise in the game, to producing, and obviously talking Bills and NFL with me. Where can Bills Mafia find you to follow you and all the work that you've got upcoming?
I am at Hannah J. Wilkes on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm shameless in posting what I'm up to on there. So.
Yeah, definitely check out for the NFL Overtime. You do fantasy section on there as well, don't you?
Yes, we are very big on fantasy at the moment on Overtime, which I was loving week 1 and 2, but I'm not looking forward to this week. But yeah, obviously, got to say as well, we'll be remiss if I didn't. Overtime, Sky Sports NFL every Thursday, 9:00, and Her Huddle on NFL UK's Instagram is live on Tuesday evenings, and then you can see it on the NFL UK YouTube channel if you missed the live, usually from like Thursday or Friday.
Awesome. So Hannah, thank you very, very much for coming on the show for me.
Thanks for having me.
That was Hannah. Thank you very much, Hannah, for coming on the show. Such inspiration with the work she's done and how she's risen from a runner to hosting NFL. She's a Rams fan. We'll let her have that. She likes the Bills Mafia now. We could probably make her an honorary one, maybe. But it was great to have her perspective on the Bills last season, and obviously hearing her journey from being a runner to working her way up, and actually managed to rub shoulders with the big guns, being a pioneer for women in hosting and presenters. And I would definitely recommend watching the NFL Overtime show, and also watching or listening to Her Huddle. Both brilliant shows that she actually she hosts. So that is all the time we have. I keep following us at UK_Bills on Twitter, at RWBB_podcast on Twitter, Buffalo Bills UK on Facebook, on YouTube, at UK_Bills on Instagram. Please share, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the follow button. Spread the word of the Bills Mafia here in the UK. We're growing. Also, remember, every Sunday, head down to Fitzrover Bell in London and watch the Bills with other Bills fans. The Fitzrover Bell, they have an area reserved for us, and they're our official home to watch all Bills games at 6 p.m. or 9 p.m, whether they're on Sky or Game Pass. So check it out, and remember, keep the 7th of November in the diary. Book the next day off if you have to, because it's our watch party for the Jaguars game. So come down, meet me, meet Alex, meet Charlie and Tim from the Buffalo from Afar podcast. Obviously check them out as well. And for Matt, saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for listening. Continue subscribing, and let's go Buffalo Bills.